I had barely poured a glass of water after dropping Maya off at kindergarten when I received a call from the teacher. Ms. Peterson, ma'am, please come to the hospital immediately. Maya injured a classmate. I sped to the hospital, but when I arrived, the scene before me nearly suffocated me. Maya was lying on the emergency bed, her abdomen stabbed with a fruit knife. Blood stained the sheets crimson. The other child only had a superficial scratch on their fingertip. Clenched my fist and turned to the teacher, my voice dangerously cold. "What happened?" she stammered, avoiding my gaze. I didn't say another word and demanded to see the classroom surveillance footage immediately. The truth made my whole body tremble. The boy, Leo, had called Maya a fatherless bastard and trash. When Maya simply retorted, he immediately pulled the knife from his lunchbox and, without a word of warning, plunged it straight into her abdomen. Before I could fully process it, the boy's mother stormed in. She pointed a finger straight at my face, her voice sharp as steel. "An orphan like that can die without loss. My son is from a noble lineage. Every strand of his hair is precious. He's been traumatized. Who will pay for this? Who do you think you are?" Let me tell you, Hoover Industries holds shares in every hospital in Rutherford City. If your daughter dares make my son cry today, don't expect to leave here intact. I looked at her and smiled, but it was a smile of utter contempt, not joy. Perhaps she didn't know. Maya's parents were military officers, both killed in action during a classified mission before she could even say mom or dad fully. Afterward, Maya became the darling of the entire female squad at the district command, with soldiers fighting to adopt her. Even Colonel Hayes, the garrison commander, cherished her like his own grandchild. And now, this woman dared to stand in a hospital and call her trash. I took out my phone, every word solid as steel. "Hello, District Command? Maya is in the emergency room. Stabbed, critical condition. She's being called a bastard and trash. Cancel all leave. Anyone not currently deployed, report to the hospital within 30 minutes. I want to show the Hoover family that a soldier's daughter is not to be humiliated." As soon as I hung up, the woman, Mrs. Caroline Hoover, who boasted of being the richest daughter-in-law in the city, slapped the phone from my hand. She laughed dismissively, her eyes raking over me like I was dirt. "What's this?" "Heard I'm a Hoover and decided to call your flock of chicken friends to stand up for you." Birds of a feather. Women like you, cheap flirts who seduce men-raised children who are just as worthless. Look at your daughter, already dreaming of clinging to my son at her age. The fury in my chest threatened to explode. Just as I was about to move, a weak voice drifted from the bedside. "Mummy, you're not a chicken." Maya's small face was pale, her eyes still closed, her body trembling like a flower in a storm. "My moms are heroes." My heart squeezed. I frantically grabbed her cold hand. "I'm here. Don't be afraid. Your parents are heroes, protectors of the people." "She's lying!" A high-pitched yell cut through the room. It was Leo, Caroline's son. Every day, a different person drops her off. How can one person have so many mothers? She's a fatherless bastard. No one knows who her dad is. Her mom a hero? Ridiculous. The boy's face was twisted in anger, but what was more frightening was his calculated, arrogant demeanor. He didn't look like a 5-year-old. She lied and disobeyed me. She's low class, so I have the right to teach her a lesson. My mom says we can do anything we want in this city. Even if she died, someone would cover it up for me. I was frozen. I couldn't believe a 5-year-old child could utter such cruelty, and his actions showed an instinctive, calculated malice. I raised my head, my eyes fixing on Caroline's heavily made-up face. "Is this how you teach your child?" I ground out. But the woman showed no shame, even tilting her chin in pride. "It's the truth, isn't it? What did I say wrong? A child who's dropped off by a different woman every day? What is that if not a bastard? I'm teaching my son to recognize the true nature of the trash at the bottom of society. What's wrong with that?" She took a step closer, nearly jabbing her finger into my face. "I'm telling you, in this city, the Hoover family's word is law. My son was generous to just hurt her. The little brat dared to fight back and injure my son. She deserves to die. The lives of your kind aren't worth a single hair on my son's head." I clenched my fists, my whole body shaking with rage. I wanted to lunge forward and tear that venomous mouth to shreds. Maya's parents died for their country when she was just 1. Both families were generations of decorated military service. She was their last remaining grandchild. We kept her in the barracks instead of an orphanage. Because she was loved, a different person, a squadron sister, someone on leave, or someone with a free shift would drop her off every day. Today was my turn, and this happens. If anything happened to Maya, I truly wouldn't know how to face my sisters in the barracks or the commander who treated her like his own granddaughter. It took all my strength to suppress the anger. I am a soldier. My actions represent the nation. Talking to this kind of person was useless. I took a step back, my eyes freezing cold as I looked at Caroline. The Hoover family, I remember. We have a debt to settle. Now, saving the child is all that matters. I turned away, unwilling to waste another breath on such a contemptible person. A nurse nearby had mentioned a serious highway accident. Many victims were being brought here, and the hospital was critically understaffed. Fortunately, I carried the special medicine prescribed by the former commander for Maya. I gave it to her right away. Her life was not immediately in danger, but time was short. I was about to move her to another hospital when a doctor rushed over. "Where is the injured child? What's her status?" I quickly stepped aside. The nurse reported, 5-year-old girl, fruit knife, stabbed to the abdomen. Depth unknown, conscious but significant blood loss. The doctor inspected the wound, then checked Maya's pupils and color. Luckily, the initial assessment showed no damage to major organs, but there was heavy blood loss. Immediate disinfection, stitching, and staunching were required. His eyebrows furrowed. All operating rooms are full with highway accident victims. No choice. We must perform emergency treatment here to stabilize her. He immediately ordered the nurse to prepare a suture kit, anesthesia, and blood bags. As the nurse turned to leave, Caroline grabbed her arm. "Wait!" She shoved her son, Leo, toward the doctor. "Save my son first. He's bleeding on his hand. A lot." The doctor looked at Leo's index finger, which had only a faint, dried red streak. He frowned, his eyes stern. "Parent, please stop causing chaos." The doctor's voice was firm. "Your son only has a minor scratch. He doesn't need stitches, just a swab of iodine. The hospital is understaffed. The protocol is to prioritize the severely injured." This is basic medical ethics. Caroline instantly exploded. She raised her hand and delivered a deafening slap across the doctor's face. "Ethics? I am the ethics here." The unexpected slap silenced the entire hallway. Everyone stared, holding their breath. She pointed a finger at the doctor, screeching. "Just a mid-level doctor daring to raise his voice at me? Do you know who I am? I am a Hoover daughter-in-law. This is the Hoover heir. Even the hospital director bows to me. Who are you to speak to me like that?" My son's finger touched the blood of that little bastard. "What if he caught something?" "I order you to perform a full, detailed checkup on my son from head to toe, hair to nail. If you refuse, I'll have you fired from this dump of a hospital and blacklisted from the entire medical community in this city." Dr. Liu held his face, his eyes blazing with anger and humiliation, but beneath it was shock at the woman's blatant irrationality. People around them began to murmur in outrage, but Caroline acted as if she couldn't hear. She even turned to the 2 security guards in black suits behind her. "Take him away! Doctors are here to save people, not dirty rats crawling out of the sewer." The 2 guards immediately muzzled Dr. Liu and dragged him away like a criminal. Caroline turned back, a sneering, victorious smile aimed at me. "Someone like you thought you could fight me?" My hands clenched. My whole body felt like it was on fire. I stepped forward, ready to stop the absurd scene. The nurse quickly pulled my arm, whispering urgently, "Please, ma'am, calm down. If you provoke people with money and power, you'll be the one who loses. Saving your child is what's most important." My eyes were red with fury, but the doctor was taken. Who will save my daughter? "Does having money mean you can do anything?" I yelled, but forced myself to take a deep breath and regain control. The nurse was right. Maya's life came first. "I apologize. I didn't mean to snap at you. Is there an empty hospital nearby? I need to transfer her immediately." I bent down to pick up Maya, but the nurse stopped me again. "You can't. The highway accident is too severe. All major hospitals are full. Transferring now means waiting in line, which is more dangerous for her." She took a quick breath. "She has lost too much blood. She needs a transfusion immediately. But the blood bank is likely depleted. Please find a donor quickly. I'll prepare an emergency transfusion to sustain her vitals." My heart sank. Without hesitation, I rolled up my sleeve, revealing the blue veins in my arm. "Take my blood. Maya and I are both B positive." But the nurse shook her head, her eyes full of pity. "No, direct blood transfusion between close relatives can cause rejection reactions. It's extremely dangerous." I nearly screamed with suppressed anguish. "I'm not her biological mother." My voice was shaky and hoarse, a plea and a declaration. "She's a Martyr's child. Her parents died for the country. Please save her. Take my blood." The nurse's eyes widened and she immediately nodded, rushing to prepare the donation. I was taken into the donation room. The dark red blood flowed through the tube into the bag, and I felt time slow down to a crawl. Every second was Maya fighting for her life on the edge of death. I shakily opened my cracked phone. The internal military chat was constantly buzzing. What happened? How is she hurt? We've deployed. Status? We brought a military medic. Hang in there, Maya. Your fathers from the 2nd District are coming. Be there in 10 minutes. The messages from my sisters in the barracks and my comrades felt like a wave of warmth in the middle of winter. They were coming, bringing a doctor and hope. I bit my lip against the dizziness as the bag filled with 400 cc of blood. The nurse pulled out the needle, ready to rush the precious bag away. But just then, a hand with bright red nail polish snatched the blood bag. So there is blood. Why did you lie about the blood bank being depleted? Mrs. Caroline Hoover clutched the bag like a rightful theft. Transfuse this to my son immediately. He was frightened. His blood sugar must be low. He needs nourishment. I stumbled to my feet, my head swimming, my eyes locked onto her like steel arrows. Put that blood bag down! Caroline flinched at my icy glare, but quickly recovered her arrogant demeanor, shouting loudly, "You! What are you going to do?" This blood is now in the bank. I'll transfuse it to whomever I please. It's none of your business. The nurse couldn't take it anymore. She bravely stepped forward and softly pleaded. Mrs. Hoover, the little girl is a martyr's child. Her parents died for the country. She is the only one left. Please, as an act of mercy, return the blood. Save her life. The sincere plea didn't move Carolyn. Instead, she shoved the nurse back forcefully. Martyr? Stop playing the sympathy card. Who cares if it's true? My son's health is the only thing that matters. The nurse was shoved hard, nearly hitting her head on a sharp table edge. I managed to catch her. At this point, I wasted no more words. With one smooth, precise motion, I seized Caroline's wrist using a standard military restraint technique. "R!" She screamed in pain, her hand shaking, dropping the warm blood bag. I snatched it with a perfect catch and hugged it to my chest. This was not just a bag of blood. It was Maya's life. "You dare hit me!" Caroline shrieked maniacally. She immediately spun around and yelled at the 2 bodyguards. "Are you 2 statues? Get over here and teach this bitch a lesson." The 2 bodyguards stepped forward, radiating menace. Their footsteps steady, clearly well-trained. Fine. If they wanted a physical fight, I wouldn't hold back anymore. The pent-up rage in my chest finally had an outlet. I leaned back, coldly handing the blood bag to the nurse. "Hold this. Guard it with your life." I straightened up, lowering my center of gravity, dodging the first guard's punch. My right leg shot out like a bullet, a cold, fast sidekick slamming into his abdomen. "Arr!" The guard, unable to react, flew backward like a ragdoll. The second guard, eyes flashing, lunged from behind, attempting a chokehold. I ducked and twisted aside, my body springing like a coil. My left foot held my weight as my right foot swung out in a graceful, cold, spinning heel kick, the sole of my boot smashing against his chin like a hammer. He fell, eyes rolling back, instantly unconscious. Everything happened in a few seconds. The hallway was silent. I slowly turned, walking deliberately toward Mrs. Caroline Hoover, whose heavily made-up face was now pale with terror. She backed away frantically. "You? What are you doing? Don't think a few tricks scare me. I'm a Hoover. If you lay a finger on me, the Hoover family will not let you live in peace." I stared down at her fear-contorted face without pity. I wrapped one hand tightly around her neck, strong enough to choke out her boastful breath. "Let me go." Caroline clawed at my hand, her voice hoarse from being constricted. I leaned close, looking her straight in the eye, close enough to see the sheer terror flooding her trembling pupils. "You should feel lucky you live in peacetime, protected by law." I squeezed gently, just enough to let her know I wasn't joking. "Anywhere else for what you just did, I could break your teeth so you couldn't speak, and no one would be there to help you." The murderous intent in my eyes was undisguised. Carolyn trembled uncontrollably, frozen solid, even losing the strength to struggle. But just then, a childish yet chilling voice rang out behind me. "Let go of my mother, or you'll regret it." I whirled around, and the scene before me froze my heart. Leo, the 5-year-old boy, had somehow dragged Maya off the bed with the help of the 2 remaining guards, pulling her across the cold tile floor like a broken doll. Maya's small arm was scraped and bleeding, leaving a crimson trail on the white floor. The bandage on her abdomen had burst open, and fresh blood gushed out, soaking her shirt. Her face was contorted in pain, pale as a sheet, near collapse. In her faintness, she was still whispering, "Mommy, it hurts." Each whisper was a needle piercing my heart, a pain so profound I couldn't breathe. He was 5. How could a 5-year-old be so cruel? Was he a demon? "You son of a bitch! Let go of Maya!" I roared, the scream tearing my throat like a cornered beast. As I lunged, a sharp pain struck my head. It was Caroline. She had seized the moment of my distraction to grab my hair and yank me back with all her strength. I staggered. She took the opportunity to scramble back toward her son, clinging to him as if I were the terrorist. Seeing Maya convulsing on the floor, her small body trembling, her face ghostly white, a cold dread ran down my spine. Caroline's eyes shone with smug satisfaction. "See? This is what happens when you mess with my family. My son will go on to do great things." Leo smiled, that sickening, arrogant, twisted smile when his mother praised him. The boy even lifted his foot and kicked Maya again. "Now kneel down and apologize." Caroline pointed at me, her voice sharp with command. "Otherwise, my son might accidentally scratch her again. Don't blame me." I was rigid, my eyes blurring with rage. Before me were an arrogantly inhumane mother and a child raised on malice and privilege. They dared to use the life of an injured child to threaten me. I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms, drawing blood, but I felt no pain. Maya was still in their hands. I couldn't risk it. All my pride, all the self-respect of a soldier, turned to dust in that instant before the life of the child. I slowly knelt down, my voice thick with sobs. "I'm sorry, it's my fault. I shouldn't have struck you. Please let her go. She'll die if you don't. Please." Seeing me bow and apologize, Caroline sneered. A satisfied smile plastered across her carefully made-up face. "Humph. Too late." She gestured to a guard, then violently snatched the blood bag from the nurse's hand, throwing it onto the cold tile floor. "Weren't you so aggressive earlier? You hit me for this trash bag of blood, didn't you?" She raised her glistening high heel and stomped it down hard on the blood bag. A dull thwack echoed in the hallway. The dark red blood splattered everywhere, staining the white floor. "No!" the nurse and I screamed simultaneously. Caroline watched the blood pool and the look of desperate agony on our faces. Her smile became frighteningly twisted and vicious. "You want me to spare the little brat? Fine. Now take off all your clothes right here. Let everyone see what kind of filthy woman you truly are." I stood still, not saying a word, my eyes subtly glancing toward the entrance. Caroline's smile grew more sinister. "What? Still waiting for your chicken flock to save you? I'll make them strip bare just like you." She paused, her voice suddenly dropping. "Refuse? Then I'll speed up the little brat's death." Her red-painted hand slowly reached toward the fruit knife still embedded in Maya's abdomen. I knew instantly that if that knife was pulled out without a doctor present, blood would spray out within seconds. The child would die right here. "No, don't touch her," I screamed, my voice raw. "I'll do it! I'll strip! Please don't touch her!" My trembling hand reached for the first button on my shirt. Everything was collapsing inside my head. I could hear the blood in my heart pounding like a war drum. At that exact moment, crack! A rubber bullet suddenly struck Caroline's wrist. The dry, crisp sound echoed. She shrieked, clutching her hand, falling to the ground and howling in agony. Simultaneously, a voice roared down the hallway like thunder. "Let's see who dares touch her." The voice was deep, resounding, and heavy as forged steel, carrying the authority of a man who had walked through battlefields. The entire hospital seemed to shake. I immediately recognized that voice. It was the command's XO, the executive officer, whom the regiment commander's youngest son loved to play with. I looked toward the hallway and saw Colonel Hayes and my sisters from the female squad marching toward us. Some were in training uniforms still stained with mud. Others were in formal dress uniforms, having not had time to change. But they shared one thing: their eyes were bloodshot with fury. Seeing the scene, they all clenched their fists, their faces a mixture of rage and grief. I could no longer hold back. Tears streamed down, mixing with all the humiliation I had suppressed. The executive officer rushed forward, supporting me. 2 other female soldiers immediately ran to lift Maya from the cold floor, carefully handing her to the military medic following behind. Colonel Hayes saw Maya in the medic's arms, blood still oozing from her abdomen, her face pale. His eyes were filled with sorrow and extreme indignation. "The hospital is overloaded. Use my name to call the Brigadier's Lodge immediately. Tell them to prepare to receive her." The Brigadier's Lodge was not a place ordinary people could enter. Only those with great merit or high-ranking officers could be treated there. If Maya was transferred there, she would definitely survive. Caroline, finally regaining her senses, scrambled to get up, her mouth still spewing curses. Who authorized you to take her? No one leaves here without my permission. No one paid her any mind. The military medic, carrying Maya, strode quickly away. Seeing herself ignored, Caroline's face contorted with rage. She screeched, "Too old to stay in your nursing home. Why are you even here making a mess? What a joke. A bunch of hens dragging an old pervert to play hero." Before she could finish, the orderly next to the colonel slapped her hard across the face. The dry, crisp sound echoed through the hallway. "Shut your filthy mouth!" The orderly's voice was ice cold. "Does that dog mouth of yours ever speak human words?" The air was suddenly silent, broken only by the rapid footsteps of the medic carrying Maya away and the shaky breathing of the woman whose face was now red and crooked from the slap. "Do you even know who you're talking to? Dare to make up lies? You'll face severe punishment." Caroline, still reeling from the slap, her eyes blazing with anger and fear, shrieked, You dare hit me! Don't think I'm scared just because there are many of you." She continued yelling, trying to assert control. "I've called my husband. You injured the Hoover heir. None of you will leave this hospital today. I'll make you pay." Colonel Hayes didn't bother with her empty threats. His eyes remained cold and he didn't even look at Caroline. Once he confirmed Maya had been moved, he asked me for the full story. I recounted every detail. With every word I spoke, the commander's face grew darker. By the end, a vein throbbed on his forehead, a clear sign of his fury. He was a man who deeply valued comradeship and abhorred those who bullied the orphans of martyrs. The so-called elite of Rutherford City. The commander spat the words out through clenched teeth, then turned to the mother and son. "Take them. I want to see just how powerful the Hoover family truly is." As soon as the command was given, my sisters in the squad, who had been waiting, swarmed forward. They quickly subdued the remaining bodyguards. With hands as strong as steel, they contained Caroline and Leo, preparing to drag them out. "Let go! Do you know who I am? I'm a Hoover. My husband won't let you get away with this." She struggled like a mad woman. Leo imitated her, kicking, biting, and screaming insults at the female soldiers holding him. "You cheap trash, let me go. I'll tell my dad to put all of you in jail." The struggling and screaming of Caroline and her son against the professional female soldiers were like child's play. My sisters' hands were iron, their expressions calm, their movements precise. Just as the mother and son were about to be dragged out of the hallway, a man's voice, deep and authoritative, rang out from the elevator. "Who has the audacity to lay a hand on my family?" A man in an expensive suit, escorted by a group of bodyguards, strode toward us. Seeing him, Caroline immediately began to wail hysterically. "Husband, you're finally here! They tried to kidnap our son and threatened to chop off his limbs." Leo cooperated perfectly, his face a swollen mess as he screamed, "Dad, save me! They want to kill me!" The female soldiers exchanged glances, their eyes showing a shared look of exasperation. The man's eyes, seeing his wife and son restrained, one with a swollen face, the other crying like a stuck pig, flared with rage. He waved his hand, and the bodyguards immediately formed a line, facing us. Clearly, he had only heard his wife's dramatic version of events. His eyes swept over us, finally stopping at the imposing figure of Colonel Hayes standing in the front. A sneer, a mix of arrogance and contempt, played on his lips. "Oh, impressive. An old man with a flock of women." His voice, mocking and full of the pride of someone used to power, continued. "Who is this old man? What circles do you run in? Let me tell you, anyone who crosses the Hoover family in this city doesn't end well." He took a step closer, his voice dropping as he issued an order. "Release my wife and son, then kneel and apologize. Bow deeply. If you comply quickly, I might consider letting you live." The arrogance of Mr. Allen Hoover surpassed even his wife's. His eyes dismissed all of us, as if none were worthy of his attention. Colonel Hayes stood straight, his face expressionless. He simply asked a calm question. "Mr. Allen Hoover, Vice President of Hoover Industries?" The man paused, then, as if receiving validation, nodded proudly. "Yes. Good, you know my name." Before he could finish, the colonel cut him off, his voice still calm, yet sharp as a cold steel blade. "You want them back? Tell your father, Chairman Victor Hoover, to come see me personally." The air froze. Allen Hoover was stunned. His father, Victor Hoover, was the chairman of Hoover Industries, one of Rutherford City's most powerful figures, a man who could make others bow their heads their whole lives. Yet, this old man dared to call him by name and demand a personal meeting. "You know my father. His voice held a trace of hesitation. Before anyone could reply, Caroline cut in with her grating shriek. "Husband, don't believe him. There's no way he knows your father." She turned back to us, her eyes full of venom. She grew bolder as she spoke. "Look, a truly wealthy person wouldn't bring a pack of women like this out. They look like an old goat leading a flock of chickens to scam people. They all claim to be that girl's mother. It's hilarious. How can anyone have so many mothers? Clearly, they're cheap women who don't know who the father is, pretending to be parents to latch on to the Hoover family and change their lives." The female soldiers' faces turned white with fury, their hands clenched, knuckles white and cracking. But because civilians were gathering to watch, they held back. Only the squadron leader, known for her quick temper, looked at the colonel and with a nod of approval, struck Caroline across the face once more. "Shut your filthy mouth. You dare to insult us again, and I will rip that venomous tongue out of your head." The slap was delivered with all the force of long-suppressed fury. Caroline fell to the ground, her cheek red and starting to bleed. She coughed violently, spitting out a mouthful of foamy blood. Being struck again in front of her husband drove her completely insane. "You dare hit me! I'll kill you!" She scrambled up, trying to claw at the squadron leader. Just then, a voice boomed like thunder from the end of the hallway. "Who did you say was a bastard? And who are you trying to kill? So what if the child has many mothers? She has us, her fathers too?" The commander of the 2nd District led over a dozen soldiers in olive green uniforms. They radiated an overwhelming aura of command. He was about to snap to attention and salute the colonel, but an eye signal stopped him. "Handle this in a private capacity. This is personal business." A simple sentence, but it carried the weight of 1,000 pounds. The major understood instantly and stepped back with his men, standing at attention without a word. This was a public place. Civilians were watching. Involving the military officially could cause a public uproar, turning the act of protecting a martyr's child into an accusation of military abuse of power. Though they were right, they knew the public might not understand. And the one who understood the least was Caroline. Seeing a group of men in uniform, instead of being scared, she saw an opportunity. She covered her swollen half-face, hysterically stumbling toward Alan Hoover. "Husband, look, my face is swollen. Those women insulted me, and now a bunch of strange men in uniform are here threatening me. They must be a gangster group pretending to be soldiers to silence people. Look, no child in the world has so many mothers and fathers. It's clearly a filthy scandal." Caroline, still unafraid, continued to scream, her voice increasingly vicious. "They're just a large group, so they dared to hit me in front of everyone. But this slap isn't just on my face. It's a slap to the Hoover family's honor." She turned to Alan Hoover, her voice rising to a shriek. "Why are you just standing there? Call your people now. If this gets out, how can the Hoover family live in Rutherford City?" Alan Hoover had been slightly intimidated by the commander's presence and the soldiers. But his wife's agitation, coupled with his wounded pride, clouded his judgment. In his eyes, honor was more important than reason. He gritted his teeth, his face stone cold. "Fine. You wanted to meet my father, didn't you? Then wait for him." With that, Alan Hoover pulled out his phone, quickly dialed a number, and put it to his ear. His voice was compressed with anger, but firm. "Hello, Dad. Someone hit me and hit my wife. They're threatening to investigate our entire family. Come and hear this. I will not let this be swallowed in silence." The call connected. Alan Hoover immediately changed his tone, crying and wailing as if he were the victim beaten within an inch of his life. Dad, come to Central Hospital immediately. Our son, my wife, and Leo are surrounded. They brought 100 people here, brazenly protecting the brat who stabbed Leo. They even dared to strike my wife. Now they are threatening to force you, Dad, to come here and kneel. This is a complete disrespect to the Hoover family. If you don't come now, I fear you won't see us again." We all felt an uncontrollable surge of fury as he blatantly lied. A group who came to save the injured and protect a martyr's daughter was called a besieging gang. He claimed a small girl stabbed someone, yet the whole hospital knew Maya was the victim. Truly, a husband and wife united in blackening white. Alan Hoover's skill in slander clearly surpassed even Caroline's. Seeing her husband perform so smoothly, Caroline signaled to her son. Leo, though only 5, was a professional child actor. He immediately burst into a high-pitched, tearful wail, sounding like a hostage on the scene. Grandpa, save me. These bad people hit my mom and are capturing Dad and me. Grandpa, hurry! They want to kill me." A 5-year-old, capable of such acting, yelling such vicious, knife-like words while feigning fear. The entire hallway fell silent for a few seconds. Even the surrounding spectators, who were initially hesitant and tended to side with the powerful, now showed shock and disbelief. A child like this was spoiled to the bone. The looks directed at Caroline and Alan Hoover were no longer wary, but horrified and disgusted. Alan Hoover hung up the phone, looking around with a proud, even more arrogant expression than before. My father is on his way. You think you're tough, huh? Let's see who kneels, who begs, and who is carried out on a stretcher before you dare to look down on us. Colonel Hayes' face remained impassive, but his eyes grew colder, deeper, and dangerously calm. The squadron leader pulled up a chair and placed it in the middle of the hallway. The colonel nodded slightly and calmly sat down. He didn't bother with Alan Hoover's screaming, focusing instead on a more important matter. He leaned in, whispering instructions to his orderly, "Go check on the victims of the highway accident. If they're short on blood, we are ready to mobilize donors anytime." At that moment, my phone vibrated. It was a message from the military medic. I read it, and a wave of relief washed over me. My throat tightened with joy. I inhaled deeply, stepped forward, and whispered my report to the colonel. "She's been safely operated on. Fortunately, no internal organ damage. The sutures are done, and blood transfusion is stable. She is temporarily out of danger, sir." The news was a cool breeze in a desert. Everyone breathed a collective sigh of relief, their shoulders slumping after being tense as a bowstring. As long as the child lived, everything was worth it. But just then, Caroline, upon hearing the words, not only showed no remorse, but sneered mockingly. "Humph. That trash really has 9 lives, doesn't she? Still not dead after being stabbed. Truly the kind of persistent blight that stays alive forever, despite having no luck." My rage, which had just subsided, flared up again violently. The squadron leader, Major Yang, also became enraged, rolling up her sleeves and stepping forward, no longer able to maintain her composure. Seeing this, Caroline paled, screamed in fear, and quickly hid behind her husband. Alan Hoover had no time to react, as Leo, who had been fixated on the elevator, suddenly screamed like he was saved. The boy shot forward like an arrow, clinging tightly to the leg of the man who had just stepped out of the elevator. "Grandpa! Save me, Grandpa! They hit my mom and captured my dad, and they were about to capture me too. Grandpa, hurry up and save me." Immediately after, Caroline rushed over, her face swollen like a balloon. She ran and wailed, "Dad! They hit our whole family and humiliated the Hoover family. You must demand justice for us. Dad, you must demand justice. They beat me half to death. Look at my face, Dad." Caroline cradled her swollen face, weeping profusely. Leo was also hurt. "They nearly broke his arm. They all act like they're above the law and wanted to kill our whole family." She pointed wildly at us, screaming as if she had just escaped a war zone. Chairman Victor Hoover, the patriarch of the Hoover family, stepped out of the elevator and was immediately surrounded by his son, daughter-in-law, and grandson. His eyes quickly scanned Caroline's swollen face, then Leo's fearful, theatrical expression, and finally his son's rigid, furious face. His own face darkened instantly. "Who is so audacious? Who dares lay a hand on my family? Do they think we are untouchable?" The tension in the air was palpable. Hoover's bodyguards began to tighten their circle. The crowd of onlookers grew larger. It was then I gave the order. The voice was neither loud nor fast, but it struck the scene like a gavel of authority hitting the table. Colonel Hayes remained seated on the chair in the middle of the hallway. His posture was unchanged, back straight, hands resting on his knees. He merely lifted his eyelids, his cold, calm gaze sweeping toward Victor Hoover. The entire hallway was drained of sound. The moment Victor Hoover's eyes met the colonel's, his entire body went rigid. His pupils contracted, and his expression turned to shock. "Old Commander? Why are you here, sir?" Before anyone could react, he instinctively stood tall, snapped to attention, and raised his hand in a perfect military salute, just as he had done years ago. "Reporting, Commander." Victor Hoover, former squad leader of the 7th Battalion, 3rd Regiment, 2nd Division, salutes the commander. His voice trembled with a mixture of awe, fear, and respect. The entire hallway was frozen. Caroline choked, her sobs dying in her throat. Alan Hoover gaped wordlessly, his face pale as if drained of blood. The colonel remained seated, his gaze cold as a knife. His voice was heavy as molten steel. "Good. At least you remember you were once a soldier. I thought decades in the business world had stripped the military spine from you. Looks like you still have a shred of shame left." Victor Hoover's face flushed. His lips trembled. "Commander, this must be a misunderstanding. The children are young and impulsive. Please, tell me directly what's wrong. Don't be angry. Misunderstanding? The colonel snorted coldly, refusing to look at him. He tilted his head and spoke to Major Yang's squadron leader. Major Yang, recount the entire sequence of events. Let him hear the fruits of the Hoover family's golden seeds. Yes, sir. Major Yang, the unit's most volatile squadron leader, stepped forward, her voice loud and clear, each word a blow. She recounted everything from the grandson, Leo, calling someone a bastard and trash and using a knife, to the daughter-in-law, Carolyn, denying guilt, snatching the emergency blood bag, and ordering someone to strip in the hallway, to the son, Alan Hoover, calling his men to surround us and falsely accusing the victim and rescuers, while twisting the entire truth over the phone to him. All of it is backed by cameras, evidence, witnesses, blood traces, and statements. The entire hallway descended into a deathly silence. Victor Hoover's face was as white as paper. Every detail, without addition or exaggeration, was laid out. Major Yang's clear, logical account, without any need for dramatics, made every word feel like a knife aimed squarely at the Hoover family's face. Throughout the recounting, Victor Hoover's face shifted visibly from surprise to horror, and finally to a bloodless pallor. He stared at his spoiled grandson, his daughter-in-law, whom he always thought was just a little overzealous, and his son, whom he had raised but never truly taught. All three had their heads bowed, none daring to look up. He couldn't believe, refused to believe, that such vile, shameless, and utterly despicable behavior had come from his own family. But the final blow that made him bow came from the officer standing behind Captain Kwong of the 2nd District. He stepped forward, his voice deep and firm as a nail hammered into concrete. Maya's biological father, Lieutenant Ethan Summers, died 5 years ago, clearing a bomb during a civilian bridge project. Her biological mother, Lieutenant Chloe Summers, a Special Forces operative, died rescuing civilians during a tunnel collapse in the South. Her maternal grandparents, the Summers, are former squad leaders, old comrades who saved the commander's life 3 times during the Western Border War. His voice rose. Every word was a hammer blow. That family, 3 generations have fallen for their country. Their daughter is the daughter of our entire female company. She is the daughter of the entire 2nd District Command. He turned to look straight at Alan Hoover and Caroline, his eyes no longer angry but filled with utter contempt. We, the people in uniform, are her fathers and mothers. To touch her is to touch the honor of the entire military. It is to defy the thousands of soldiers standing guard on the borders so people like you can live comfortably. The hallway was silent. The surrounding civilians finally understood and their gazes turned. Victor Hoover, a former soldier who once wore a uniform and was called comrade, could only stand there, head bowed, frozen stiff. Alan Hoover quickly stepped forward, stammering, Dad, let me explain." A deafening slap landed squarely on Alan Hoover's face. "You animal," Victor Hoover roared, his rage a tremendous thunder. Before anyone could react, he swung his hand again, striking Caroline, who was still dazed. The blow landed directly on her already swollen cheek, sending her staggering back, her hair a mess, her face contorted as if crushed. "And you wicked woman." Victor Hoover was trembling with fury. He pointed his finger at the couple, his voice hoarse, but every word torn from his gut. "What kind of children did you raise? You taught him to stab people with a knife. You taught him arrogance and cruelty. You taught him to commit a crime against a martyr's child. The honor of the Hoover family has been thoroughly disgraced by you. You wanted to push this entire family down a path of unrighteousness, disloyalty, and dishonor, didn't you?" At this point, the man who once ruled the business world of Rutherford City seemed to have lost all strength. He staggered, turned, and faced the Colonel Hayes. Under everyone's stunned gaze, thud. Victor Hoover knelt down without hesitation, without a trace of reluctance. "Commander, I have failed to raise my son, failed to discipline my household, and caused this disaster today. I am guilty. I have betrayed a soldier's honor. I have betrayed the organization that trained me. I am unworthy of the uniform I once wore." His voice broke, and tears streamed down onto the cold tile floor. "I dare not ask for forgiveness. I only beg you, for my grandson is still young and can still be taught, and for my past service to the country, please be lenient with the boy. As for these 2, he looked straight at his son and daughter-in-law, I hand them over to the district command for processing according to the law. Whatever the outcome, I will not utter a single word of complaint." As soon as he finished, the entire hallway was silent. Alan Hoover and Carolyn were utterly frozen. "Dad, I'm your biological son." Alan Hoover trembled, his face a mixture of fear and humiliation, but his father never looked at him again. "No, it's not like that." Caroline's voice was thin as dry leaves in the wind. "I just couldn't stand my son constantly talking about her. I didn't mean it. I'm innocent." But by then, no one wanted to hear their excuses. Caroline, facing charges including intentional infliction of bodily harm, insulting the spirit of martyrs, disturbing the peace, and obstructing an officer in duty, was sentenced severely by the military court to a long-term prison sentence. In prison, her mental state collapsed completely. She often cried and shrieked like a madwoman, but it was too late. Alan Hoover, though not directly committing the violence, was complicit, covered up crimes, and deliberately framed the innocent. Furthermore, he was involved in a series of serious economic misconducts in projects he oversaw at Hoover Industries. He was ultimately imprisoned along with his wife. Leo, after being assessed by child psychologists and behavioral specialists, was diagnosed with clear signs of antisocial personality disorder and severe violent tendencies. The boy was isolated and placed in a special correctional facility for long-term mandatory therapy. His future was shrouded in doubt. Victor Hoover, despite his timely awakening and handing his family over to the law, could not escape the consequences. With his son and daughter-in-law imprisoned, his family reeled, and public opinion surged like a stormy sea. The entire incident was filmed and uploaded by civilians, creating a massive wave of outrage. The Hoover family, once a respected name, became a name cursed and spat upon everywhere. Under the pressure of public opinion and a complete boycott, Hoover Industries lasted barely 2 years before declaring bankruptcy, officially ending an empire. Victor Hoover carried the lifelong burden of shame, fell severely ill, and eventually passed away alone and heartbroken. But then the sky slowly brightened again. Justice had been served and righteousness had prevailed. The soldiers' honor was preserved and the bloodline of the heroes would be nurtured, continuing to grow in the love and protection of brave hearts. Maya, the daughter of 2 martyrs, was no longer alone in this world. Behind her stood an entire army, always ready to defend her.